Today on the set, we're going to be talking about elder law, and someone that focuses on that is Steven Kramer. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
You have quite a large practice.
Yes.
Why elder law?
Well, it's a really big growing field. Most people are growing older, they're living longer, and they require more care.
What's one of the common questions that you hear day after day?
The most popular question that I get as an elder law attorney is, are you sure you're old enough to be an elder law attorney? And then before I even answer that, they jump right into their second question, and they always start with, this is a short question, but it never is. Mr. Kramer, could you tell me how I can avoid or minimize any type of tax that my family may be hit with when we pass away, whether it's estate tax or capital gains tax? Also, I'd like to avoid probate. I don't know what it is, but I know it's bad.
Yeah.
And most importantly, I'd like to protect my assets against the cost of long-term care because it's tremendously expensive, all balanced against, I don't want to give up control over anything, and I don't really want to pay you a fortune to make this happen.
So they're coming to you because I guess to ease their pain, because it's probably pretty scary, right? Not a lot of people, you've got end-of-life issues to deal with, but also people are living longer, like you said, and there are certain things that are coming up.
An elder law attorney does help seniors usually overcome their biggest fear, which is being a burden on somebody, losing their dignity, and outliving their assets.
If you have a loved one that you want to get help for, what's a good first step?
Well, the first step is power of attorney. You really
Okay.
need a good power of attorney. If you were going to take a whole college curriculum in elder law, the first class I would teach would be 101 power of attorney, because you can use it. It's a very good planning tool. You can use it to apply for a VA benefit for dad, or to apply for Medicaid to pay for home care so mom can age in place at the house, or I can use it to file an insurance claim for my wife, or I can use it to protect assets or set up trusts. Without the power of attorney, you have to do something called a guardianship proceeding. It's extremely expensive and time-consuming, and a power of attorney, relatively inexpensive to do and easy to set up.
Now, when you're doing a POA, does the person that you're doing the POA for have to be coherent? Is that part of the requirement? So you need to do it while you're still healthy?
Right. You have
Okay.
to do it in advance of you becoming ill. So son called me up recently and said, I think I need to get power of attorney for dad. He's not doing so great. But son brings dad into the office with me, and he appears completely competent to me. In fact, we start having a conversation about how he's a hyper-competitive person. He just discovered the fishing network. And any fish they catch, he has to catch, which sometimes they get a bigger fish. He has to catch a bigger fish, which requires him to get a bigger boat, which required him to get a new permit for his dock, to extend his dock. And it was an arduous permit process, and I'm thinking to myself, boy, dad's really sharp. He's totally with it. And then he excuses himself, goes to the bathroom, and doesn't come back. And my paralegal steers him into my office, and then he extends his hand to me again as if we've never met before.
Oh.
So what dad would do is he would go to the bank in the morning, pay all his bills, go home, eat lunch, and then go back in the afternoon and pay the same bills. And if son walked into the bank and said, whoa, dad's not competent, I think the bank teller would say, he is, I just had a conversation with him. And then you'd have to go and do a guardianship proceeding. So power of attorney, relatively inexpensive compared to the alternative, which is crisis planning, guardianship proceeding.
So another common question that you get about protecting your assets, what steps would you take to help somebody with that?
Well, sometimes people come to me and say, is it too late? Did I wait to the last second? And you can always protect more if you do advanced planning as opposed to crisis planning. So a good analogy is, I just bought this barn upstate. Can you help me save it, Steve? So I come and look at your barn, and I say, wow, a beautiful antique barn. You should start by maybe closing the door at night, put a sprinkler system in, don't store the gasoline on top of the hay, basic things, and get it insured.
Okay.
But then if you call me and say, Steve, all those things that you said, great planning things to do, but I'm looking out my window right now and the barn's on fire. What can I do? Well, I can always save some of the barn, but when you wait to the last second, I can't save all the barn, but we can always save some of the barn.
Okay, so it's not a situation where you're going to lose absolutely everything in most cases. In most cases, you're able to help people, but the sooner the better.
Absolutely. You want to start thinking 5 years in advance, hopefully, protect your assets in advance. One thing that we all have in common is denial. We all think we're going to live longer than we are. We all think we're healthier eaters than we are. We probably all think we're going to exercise more than we do. But if you get that power of attorney done in advance,
right,
we can do some crisis planning and always save some. But you're never going to lose everything. But
and elder law doesn't just mean that it should be for the elderly. It's not just for 60 plus, correct? Like a power of attorney, you could also write for someone that's younger than that. It's not a certain age, right?
No, but
okay.
when we start talking about probably protecting your home,
Yes.
which is your most valuable asset from an emotional standpoint and from an economic standpoint, I usually start talking about to someone around 61 is really what I was thinking.
Okay, that sounds lovely. Tell me a success story without mentioning any names. Was there a day that you were doing your practice and you said, wow, you driving home and you said, I'm happy that I became an attorney because I was able to help this family?
Well, I'm an elder law attorney. My dad is an elder law attorney, and so is my grandfather. So at Thanksgiving, we have a lot of elder law conversations. And one year I said to my dad, hey, did you protect your house? And he said, you'll get it when I die. And we all stopped eating because here's a guy who is an elder law attorney and a biology teacher. So he understands that there is a cycle of life, that we're all not going to live forever, and an elder law attorney. And I said, really? And he's like, no, I'm going to put it into a trust. And I said, well, what age do you tell your clients to put it into a trust? And he said, 61. And I said, well, how old are you? 67. So here's an elder law attorney and a biology teacher that didn't protect his home until he was 67.
It's like the shoemaker without the shoes.
That's
right?
exactly what it is.
Well, it's lovely to meet you and to spend some time with you. I've heard wonderful things about your practice. In fact, it was so lovely because you actually brought me to the office, showed me around. You've got a fantastic staff. I know that you're knowledgeable about what you do, and I thank you for spending a little time with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For these great questions and more, you can reach out to us at Live It Up TV Show, and we'd be happy to put you in touch with Steven Kramer.